Welcome back. We are once again live on NASA TV from the Asteroid Initiative Ideas Synthesis Workshop here at the Lunar and Planetary Institute. It's our third and final day. We had a really exciting set of presentations this morning about next generation engagement, some fantastic visualizations, and we have not quite a half hour now to engage in some discussion and thinking. Hopefully the presentations have sparked some ideas both within the audience here as well as out on the net. Our hashtag again, for those that have questions, it's hashtag AsteroidGC. So join us in this conversation. So next generation engagement saw some fantastic visualizations. And I think we started to get a sense that there is an opportunity for people to build on and plug into those systems and play with those systems. And I'm wondering, we didn't really get to dig into that aspect as much. And so both Eric and David, if you might talk a little bit about how moving forward, because we're going to end in about a half hour. We're going to have a plenary session. We're going to go home. And I'm going to feel like we accomplished a lot, but we need to keep moving. And we have a wiki that's gathering ideas, but how are we going to be able to keep folks engaged and utilize these systems that you've already got started so that they can feel like they can continue to participate once we leave here? So can I ask you to dig in on that a little bit?
Yeah. Now, I think first, I think people don't understand quite that the level of images that are available to them on the web from NASA, and by making sure that we make people aware of that, give them links to where they can get those things, and those are images that they can get every day. They're updated. There's real-time data that comes out. Okay, and I think that's important. The second is that there are also videos the same way. But probably the most important thing is that there are models. NASA is keeping a set of models of planetary objects like asteroids, but of spacecraft as well. Okay, and those are things that with HTML5 you can actually put in your browser and interact with in real time. There are also open source software that's free where you can make your own videos and visualizations. And then there's also things that come with operating systems, both for the PC and for the Mac, that people can use, okay? And so it's not like they have to just look at the images we have or look at the videos that NASA makes or that NASA and its partners make. These are things they can make themselves. And so to me, a few links get them started, and probably a few short tutorials, even one-pagers, would help a lot. And maybe we can even start that dialogue on your wiki page, so that people can say, oh, how do I make a movie? Or how do I make a mosaic? Or how do I make a map? And all of those things are within the capability of anyone that has a laptop or a home PC or even a game box. So, those are the kinds of things people can do right now today. So,
quick follow-up question to that. So how far is the distance from 3D model to printing that thing out on a 3D printer that they've got at their local tech shop? Is the 3D model what they would need to take it to the MakerBot, or is there a next step between what you've created and actually creating a physical prototype of that object?
Yeah, okay. That's a very good question. And in theory, okay, I think Einstein is the person who's famous for this quote. In theory, practice and theory are the same thing. In practice, they're not. Okay, and so in theory, yes, you could just do that. In practice, the only problem about it is if you have a model of something that's physically large. If you're talking about a model of something that's the size of the table or the chair, no problem. Okay, talking about a larger thing, then the problem may be that you need to filter it down before you make the model. And the reason is you may have too much detail. And some of the reason why too much detail is not your friend is because the ability to make a 3D physical model is limited by what the 3D model is the smallest volume element that it can do. And if your model is much higher resolution than that, some of the things will disappear. So that means they won't be connected anymore. So the hinge on the door may be missing. Okay, and so all it needs though is kind of a thinning. So you just need a thinning step to make sure that you're at the resolution that you're going to print at. But but other than that, yes, no problem.
Just to follow up to your answer, is it a fair dream to think that we could have quote-unquote shops, people in their bedrooms with their laptops all over the world producing videos based on real data and models and designing it themselves? Like tomorrow, if we had the right tutorials available, we have the material for them to go and do that right now.
Absolutely yes. The answer is yes. And the only prohibition doing is doing it. Okay, but yes, and I would certainly think that might be a good thing for this grand challenge to take on.
Thank you.
Yeah,
David.
great. Thanks. Just in response to your question about what can people do now, I didn't mention this in the talk, but Eyes on the Solar System is part of a suite, which is a trio of Eyes on the Earth, Eyes on the Solar System, and also Eyes on the Exoplanets. And so it's really cool. I encourage everyone to go and just Google either one of those. They'll all come up as a set, and you can choose which one you'd like to see. But it's a lot of fun exploring. And I think one thing that would be nice to add to the wiki is what would you do with it? What would you like to add to it? What would you like to do that you can't do? How do you feel about the interface? Is it easy enough? I mean, ideally, this is the Google Earth for the entire solar system. It, for all of the exoplanets, and to be able to have the ease of participation, I think is a really interesting thing, and it's so flexible that we can do all kinds of stuff just standing outside. I got a lot of great ideas of what would be really cool to do, and I think that all of those things are going to be a really great thing to discuss, especially over the wiki, and to think about, because I think it's a tool that's waiting for something. It's already interesting, it's already great, but there's a lot of capabilities that it could have.
We have a question, please.
I was just going to say, I know that a lot of the tools you use are kind of off the shelf, and many of them may even have demo versions. They certainly did at one time. Getting links to those and stuff, and maybe some easy ingest capability for your models might get people, maybe this is the place is the wiki, that people could immediately upload those models and play with them almost in the same way that you guys do.
A question?
Going forward, would we be able to use the emerging microsatellite technology to try and physically tag some of the known objects so we could receive a more real-time telemetry from them without having to directly image those and plot them? And would it be useful to use that to try and detect the gravitational tugs of the unknown objects to give us an idea of where to look, and to be able to use those interactions to augment the mathematical models and the all the visualization techniques with a more real-time data?
I will throw that out to the crowd that's smarter than me. All I can say is that I've had conversations with folks that have looked at small sat challenge possibilities where we could do that very thing, but I am certainly not the one to be able to say yes we can. Is there somebody in the audience?
First of all, getting rid of the smarter than you part of that, but maybe Balder. But anyway, one of the things we've looked at in our company is a project called the Mothership that would carry a bunch of CubeSats and chipsets out to the vicinity of a particular NEO. And then the idea of putting sort of RFID little chipsets all over that ping back when hit, that would be the kind of thing. Or you combine something like that with a Charlie Schaefer solar sail that has an unlimited voyaging capability, and it ends up going around near many different NEOs and spraying them with a few chipsets or something that could be pinged as, and they could be followed. And of course, by the way, we can take those out on the net and have different classrooms own, this is, Jose Montega Elementary School's chipset tracking this asteroid that got named because somebody was working like we talked about yesterday. So, it all begins to flow together. But I think we, that kind of thing, right, David?
Yes, sir.
Yep, sir. Yes, sir. Anyway, so yeah, we think that's a very viable idea.
So I have another question for the group. When you think about what next generation engagement means, it can mean things like really futuristic engagement methods, so real gaming or some of the advanced methods that we heard from earlier, or it can literally mean the next generation, and thinking about education as a key element of the initiative as well. So to pivot a little bit, are there any kind of thoughts or comments on the way engaging the next generation is an important component of this effort as well, in addition to some of the activities that we heard from in the first presentation for student challenges and also engaging students in content creation, those types of activities.
If I can go backwards and speak to the previous question, as far as finding near-Earth objects, there are really only two ways to do it. One is visually, infrared or visible, seeing them, and the other is if they hit the Earth. And so there's no, they are too small to have mutual gravitational interactions that would allow you to pull that out of the data set, I think.
Well, I was just going to make a statement that I think it was Kevin that said earlier, is that there are these programs that already exist that are like FIRST, that are huge, and LunarBots. And I think one place to start is with that group of people and trying to get the asteroid awareness up. But there may be others out there. There's, the science fairs and things like that that we want to look at. There's the Conrad Awards every year, and I know that Nancy might be really interested in partnering with us on something like this. So we should look at these established areas that are already tapping into the next generation and look at having like an asteroid overlay on it aspect.
Yeah, it sure seems like the place to start with outreach is with the programs that already have substantial outreach and just allowing them to fulfill their potential. But, I'm struck by the fact that there are these, we've got mathematical models of spacecrafts and, celestial bodies, and I know that there are these, kind of graphical programming environments or creative animation environments that even preschoolers, or not preschoolers, but, elementary schoolers are using these days. I think to incorporate NASA data sets into those, or even have NASA branded, build your spacecraft, explore an asteroid, whatever, seems like a good way to start. And I think the opportunity for somebody out there, whether it's an app builder or somebody else in the space, to allow it, to allow the data from JPL, for instance, to turn into a MakerBot model. I mean, if there isn't an off-the-shelf tool that does that already, certainly there's somebody listening to this who could probably pretty easily construct one. Yeah. And just make the stuff available.
Yeah. I agree with that. I think one thing that to allow the next generation, especially, or whoever it is, but to have them act as participants in working with the information rather than just listening, or rather than it just be one way. That's what games do so well. I mean, I see my next generation, an 8-year-old, just obsessed with Minecraft, and we were talking about that earlier. And just the ability to just, and they learn so much from it too, in choosing their own path through that. But it doesn't necessarily have to be that format. But just allowing them to be participants, to have control, and to allow for creativity and to allow for problem solving to exist within the construct of whatever is presented is a really great way to engage them and have them feel like they have ownership in the information. And that is a really, I think, a strong thing and a great way to get people involved, because they feel like it's theirs. And then once they're in, then they can build up, like we were talking about earlier. Yeah.
Just another quick comment. Of course, I spoke about 6 weeks ago or so now, and in my talk, I basically said I can't think of a better STEM-oriented project than teaching high school students to observe, analyze, and submit data on asteroid light curves or other asteroid observing opportunities. It sure seems like it's kind of it sounds so far out, but the idea that there'd be a high school class that would teach, science, math students how to do this work, I think it's a fantastic platform for teaching them all the fundamentals of science and math. So,
I've been amazed by what JPL is doing, and especially about this visualization. One of the things, I've been going to the Maker Faire every year in San Mateo, and it seems to me that community is really interested in 3D printing. And if you could download those visualizations, I'm not sure if it's, it'd be a big draw, but if people see an asteroid or see that one's coming and they could download it and get a 3D model and could use it as in the classroom or something like that, it might be another aspect of trying to get people involved in that community.
Not to toot our own horn, but Grand Challenge did have a presence at the New York City Maker Faire, and AIIMS, in fact, Matt Reyes and some of his cohorts did an incredible job of printing out a handful of missions as well as asteroids that are available online to get the data like Eric's talking about. And then we had QR codes where people could link in and get that. And so you're absolutely right. That community, there's such a vibrancy in and a real interest in getting tangible and hands-on with the work. So we continue to look at ways of engaging there and expect that we will be in San Mateo with a presence. So great, thanks. Please.
I know my experiences with my own family and friends, there's a lot of people out there that have the mindset that it's either too far out time-wise or just generally, what does it do for me now? Whereas it seems that the people who get into these kinds of things are people who are already interested. And I think the best way to get more people involved is to find something that is closer time-wise that they can see will affect them, to give them a reason to start looking into this and getting involved. Because a lot of my family members are intelligent minds, but they just are not interested in anything that doesn't directly affect them, so they don't even want to get involved.
Yeah, and that raises a question I'd like to throw out to the audience as a whole, and it's one of barriers, because it's easy for us to sit around and talk about this from our perspective, and I'm wondering from your own experience of whether it's a project that you're working on or as a citizen and seeing something, do you have a sense of barriers that we might be facing here? Because for us, it's really important, and we understand. And as you say, we're connected to it. But the issue of barriers is one that I think is worth looking at. And so, is there a collective experience in the room that we can draw upon and say, yeah, this is maybe a way that we need to go, whether it's nearer term connection or something else? I'd love to hear some thoughts on that.
Yeah. My thought is that, we have a lot to compete with, okay? There's a lot of other things that draw people's attention, okay, on a day-to-day basis, okay? But we also have some advantages. And I look for educatable moments or engageable moments, okay, and places. For example, while people might not be interested in asteroids, when they're attending a rock concert or something like that, okay, when they're at a museum, it's a natural place at its natural time. if they're at an observatory, so there are lots of places that people visit, and when they're there, if we can reach them, and you're saying like the Maker Faire is an example, and there are other examples of that where, these are environments where we can reach out to people because that's what, they're kind of, that's what they're doing at that time. And then there are other moments like, if Comet ISON flies by, that's, and it is going to fly by, and how interesting it will be, okay, as it flies by, both as it approaches the sun and as it approaches the earth, okay, there'll be people, increased awareness of these cosmic objects out there. And that's a time when, again, we can, take that and leverage that. And the same thing with like flybys of spacecraft as they fly by the Earth, and make the analogy of, that these are similar other objects. So again, I think we need to look for those kinds of opportunities because really there is a lot to compete with day to day otherwise.
I like what Eric had said. However, those are like vitamin pills. And folks need to do their homework. I even see it within NASA. NASA needs to do its homework, complete the damn survey first, and find low delta V targets to bring things back. But there are those educational moments. They're like vitamin pills, planetarium productions, interesting things on Discovery or whatever. But do your damn homework.
A question for you. Do you remember what it was that sparked your interest to get down this path? I mean, because that to me is an incredibly teachable moment. Like, what it is that you found your passion in doing this work?
Sure. My dad was a mature student at Michigan State University. He took me to Abrams Planetarium, and I was curious. I was five years old. It was Footsteps on the Moon. And to a child's eyes, you're overwhelmed with visual density in the planetarium. Even if it was an old Spitz STP projector, I was convinced we were flying through space. And unlike the Apollo guys, it only took us 20 minutes to get to the moon and back. Planetarium technology back in 69, 70 time frame is not like it is today with full dome and whatnot. And that was the initial spark. There were a couple other things along the way. When we moved out to Missouri, we lived by an airport. I want to know how to fly, so I learned to fly. And I went to the Air Force Academy and so on. And so there are moments like that, but you got to do your homework. And the moments are less frequent now. However, there are adult moments when you're looking at an image from Hubble that no one else has seen yet, and there's something new. Or you're seeing a new spectral line in a near-Earth asteroid from data that you're collecting in real time from IRTF. Those things are kind of cool, and how you sit on it and whatnot. But what was that initial spark? All of us had it, but then how do you continue to engage? I think for the citizen science stuff, I kind of cringe every time I hear that. I believe in a more Jeffersonian way, an informed republic or reformed democratic republic. And I think that is the greatest benefit through all these things and the visualizations that Dave had shown earlier on. But that was my spark, was a planetarium production.
Thanks for sharing. Did that spark a thought?
That's first.
As far as engaging people, would it be possible to create something sort of like an intellectual stock market where if somebody that does this kind of thing, if what they do will help further another company's effort to the point where it would save them a development cost, that they could earn a share of stock, something so that the people who say, what does it do for me now, would actually have something that tangible that they can see that it will do for them. And give them a reason to want to go out and want to get educated and want to get, keep up with the tutorials and things, because it would give them a better chance of actually earning something.
It's a really interesting idea, and we're not going to have time now to dig into that, but I'd love to see if we can get that going on the wiki, because part, again, of the wiki is to keep this conversation going. And so if you could throw that idea down on the wiki, and let's see if we can get some conversation sparked around that. Thanks.
I was trying to think of what my first inciting moment might be, and there's things like first telescope and stuff, and maybe getting up on Saturday mornings in the early '60s and watching Fireball XL5 on, TV. But the truth is, during that time, it was easier. The space mission was really starting out. There was a lot of drama and excitement in our society as a whole about NASA and what was going on. And what interested me in the Asteroid initiative is maybe this is a chance to try to recover some of that same level of drama in our society with something that, between manned missions and the risk and the mining and all that other stuff. But somebody needs to craft this into a big, engaging message.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on actually what all of you are saying. I love the idea of creating incentives along the way, especially so that when we're talking about barriers and things, there's a lot of young people out there that don't have the role models or the perceived incentives to keep on going and knowing that they want to reach this goal, and so I think that's really great, and if we could help to create those experiences along the way that will help them to get them to want to do their homework, then, because I agree, that it's necessary and it's extremely important. But I think one of the barriers is simply just access. And one of the challenges is to reach high, to do all of the things that we want to do on the cutting edge of creating new interactions with technologies and things, but still be aware that access to those things sometimes may be difficult, and trying to create it in a way so that it may not be completely impossible.
So a question online, what's the best way for citizens, people who aren't necessarily tied into the more formal NASA community to stay engaged and find opportunities to participate? There's a high school class in Northbridge, Massachusetts, and the person's interested in how they might stay plugged in and find better ways to engage in the whole Asteroid initiative.
Great. For the overall initiative, we're going to have a plenary session following this session. Thank you. And that will deliver some findings that will enable us to have the going forward actions. I can speak specifically to the Grand Challenge, where we have this wiki that we've created, and it's not a NASA-owned wiki. I don't want to say that it's ours. It's the community's. And so we've thrown it up there. We have the means to have it available, but the purpose is to get comments and feedback. And so that's the most immediate way. We anticipate some virtual meetups that we're going to start at the beginning of next year, where people can come together and hopefully spark in-person conversations, where there'll be satellite groups that will be gathering around the topic of asteroids and the Grand Challenge. We also anticipate getting a seminar series started where we can start building some education around the basics of what we're talking around here. We'll have a presence at the Maker Faire in San Mateo. And really, we need to hear ideas back from the community, because, again, this isn't a one-way transmission. This is a Grand Challenge statement that is intended to spark action. And it's not something that we can do alone. And so I would put the question back to this high school class and say, what would you like to do? And how do you think that you can contribute? And probably the best way to provide that feedback is through the wiki, and then we can get a conversation going. Exactly. Thank you, Jen. We'll have a website getting produced that will hopefully also be a community-driven activity where it's not NASA-owned. And so this is the beginning of an ongoing dialogue, and so I'll look for that high school's response on the wiki sometime within the next week. I think we had another question.
Yeah, there's flashing back to a retro future 1950s, early 60s moment where, as a little kid, and I'm talking maybe between 4 and 12 years old, all right, before the culture has crushed the imagination out of you and put you into the system too far. There's a turning point in there of doing something. That's the kid running around in the Batman cape, going, "I'm gonna protect you, mommy." And there's a moment in there where you could get kids into something like, I'm a planetary defender. I am a member of the Planetary Defenders, and it becomes like the Cub Scouts. It's not a club. It is you are defending the planet, and then you move from there into planetary. You become an explorer, and that moves you up into the high school realm and things like that. But get them very, very young when the imagination is still there. They're going to get a tweet that pops up that says Asteroid so and so is coming by, and they're like, "Mommy," and they run out in the yard and they're like, "Look, there it is!" And I'm going to be here in my life to defend the planet, because there is something more immediate to this idea of I can do something great and I can protect the planet kind of thing, as opposed to I'm just a member of a club and I'm hanging out. And little kids, that's the turning point, So I just want to encourage something like that.
We are approaching the end of our time, and that touches on a topic that I was hoping to dig into, but we just didn't have the time to do so, and that was the idea of badging. It is an area that we want to explore more. And so I'd like to throw that out to the community for the wiki as well, is let's start talking more about badging, because I think that's the kind of level of engagement that you're talking about, of people feeling immediate connection. And one more comment. Okay. Yeah.
I don't know if you recall, but there was a period where they were trying to get kids engaged in space many years ago, and it was, do we get them involved in dinosaurs, or do we create a thing called Young Astronauts? And that was at the federal level. And they went with Young Astronauts, and it ran for a while.
Thank you. So with that, I'm sad to say our time has come to an end. It has been a broad-ranging discussion. I think we've got some great visuals and some actual work we can go and do, and the community can actually start playing with. Stay tuned to the wiki. Look for the virtual meetups in the seminar series. Look for a new website coming. This is all going to be done in partnership, so we need your help as we continue down this path. Great big thanks to the presenters, for the audience and their participation, those that weren't in the room and were with us nonetheless. And stay tuned. We'll have a plenary session to wrap up the workshop in about 15 minutes or so. But for now, I thank you greatly. Thank you, Jen.